In professional wrestling, nothing builds a legend quite like an undefeated streak. It's a powerful story that can turn a fresh face into an icon and make a champion feel completely invincible. It creates such an intense aura that fans hold their breath, just waiting to see if the Titan will finally fall. We all remember Goldberg's explosive run in WCW and The Undertaker's mythical streak at WrestleMania. But beyond those famous examples, there's a whole history of incredible winning streaks that have defined eras, created megastars, and given us some of the most stunning moments in wrestling history. So who really had the longest, most dominant run? Some streaks are about the number of days, others are about the sheer volume of wins, and a few are defined by the grand stage where they happened. In this video, we're counting down the wrestlers who were, for a time, seemingly unbeatable. Before we get into this list of legends, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. And let us know in the comments, which winning streak do you think is the most iconic of all time? Now let's get to the countdown. Tatanka kicking off our list is a name that newer fans might not recognize. But if you grew up during the new generation era of the early 1990s, he was an absolute force. We're talking about Tatanka. From his debut in the World Wrestling Federation in 1991, Tatanka was presented as a proud and powerful warrior, representing his Native American heritage. He was immediately pushed as a fan favorite, and with that came one of the most talked about televised undefeated streaks of the era. For nearly 2 years, from 1992 to 1993, Tatanka was unbeaten on WWF television. Announcers constantly reminded the audience of his flawless record every time his iconic war cry echoed through an arena. It was a classic and effective way to build a new star. His streak wasn't just about beating local talent either. He picked up a big win in his pay-per-view debut at WrestleMania 8 against Rick Martel. But the way Tatanka's streak was handled is a fascinating case. While he was unbeatable on TV, he did lose some matches at non-televised house shows, which proves the company was focused on protecting his image for the viewing audience. The streak's biggest test came at WrestleMania 9, when he challenged Shawn Michaels for the Intercontinental Championship. This was the perfect spot to either crown him champion or end the streak on the grandest stage. Instead, the company went with a third option. Tatanka won the match by disqualification, which meant the title didn't change hands, but the undefeated label technically remained. It was a choice that kept the streak going, but might have cooled his momentum, since a title win would have truly cashed in on his popularity. So, how did this impressive run finally end? The man to stop the Native American warrior was the imposing Ludwig Borga. On the October 30th, 1993, episode of Superstars, with a distraction from Mr. Fuji, Borga used a steel chair on Tatanka before getting the pin. It was an abrupt end to a televised run that had lasted for nearly 2 years. Following the match, an attack by WWF champion Yokozuna wrote him off television for months. The legacy of Tatanka's streak is complicated. It made him a popular mid-card star, but it never quite launched him into the main event scene. He never won a championship during this period, which has led some to call it a pointless streak in hindsight. However, Tatanka himself has argued that the streak was his push, a way to get him over with fans when titles weren't passed around as often. While it may not be remembered like others on this list, for a time, Tatanka's undefeated run was a defining part of WWF programming. Mr. Perfect, in 1988, the WWF started airing vignettes that were, well, perfect. A man with golden hair and an arrogant smirk, Curt Hennig, now known as Mr. Perfect, was shown mastering any sport he tried. He'd bowl a 300, sink a full-court basketball shot without looking, and hit a home run every time. These clips set an impossibly high standard, but when Mr. Perfect finally got in a WWF ring, he lived up to the hype. He wasn't just winning, he was flawless. For well over a year, Mr. Perfect went on a televised, undefeated streak that made him look like the ultimate technician. From late 1988 through all of 1989, he was unbeaten on TV, taking down respected talents like Tito Santana, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and a young Bret Hart. In the ring, he was a master of psychology and flawless execution. Every drop kick was textbook, and his signature finisher, the perfect plex, was sold as an inescapable pin. His dominance quickly took him from a mid-card spectacle to a main event threat. After joining forces with the genius Lanny Poffo, Mr. Perfect started a high-profile feud with the WWF champion himself, Hulk Hogan. The rivalry ignited when Perfect helped the genius beat Hogan by countout, after which they stole Hogan's championship belt and smashed it to pieces. This sent a clear message that Perfect was a real contender for the company's top prize. He and Hogan wrestled often at live events, and while Hogan usually came out on top, Perfect's televised aura of invincibility was carefully maintained. The streak hit a turning point at the 1990 Royal Rumble. Coming in at the coveted number 30 spot, Perfect made it to the final two before being eliminated by Hogan. It was a loss, but not by pinfall or submission, so the official streak was kept alive. His first official televised loss came at WrestleMania 6, where he was defeated by Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Even though the streak was over, it had done its job perfectly. It established Curt Hennig as one of the best talents in the industry. Just a month after his WrestleMania loss, he won a tournament for the vacant Intercontinental Championship, beating Tito Santana in the finals to capture his first WWF title. He would go on to have a legendary reign that brought a new level of credibility to the championship. The legacy of Mr. Perfect's streak is that it was the ideal introduction for a character who claimed to be flawless. It proved that in wrestling, how you're presented is just as important as your win-loss record. Gunther, for decades, the WWE Intercontinental Championship was the workhorse title held by some of the most gifted wrestlers in history. But in the modern era, one man didn't just hold the title. He restored its prestige through sheer, brutal dominance. That man is the ring general, Gunther. Gunther won the Intercontinental Championship from Ricochet on the June 10, 2022, episode of SmackDown. From that day on, he began a reign of terror that felt like a throwback to an older era. With his Imperium stablemates at his side, Gunther treated the ring as sacred ground and the championship as the highest honor. His style is unrelenting, a brutal symphony of thunderous chops and punishing powerbombs. Each title defense wasn't just a match, it was a physical ordeal. His reign was marked by a string of critically acclaimed show-stealing matches. His triple threat match against Drew McIntyre and Sheamus at WrestleMania 39 is considered one of the greatest matches in the event's history. He fought off challenges from top-tier talent like Shinsuke Nakamura and Jey Uso. But the most compelling story of his reign was his series of matches against Chad Gable. Gable, an underdog Olympian, pushed Gunther to his absolute limit, even winning one match by countout, which only added to the drama. On September 4, 2023, Gunther defeated Gable on Monday Night Raw to secure his place in history. On September 8, 2023, Gunther officially passed the Honky Tonk Man's 454-day reign, a record that stood for 35 years. But the ring general kept going, stretching his reign past 600 days. All good things and all brutal reigns must end. After an incredible 666 days as champion, Gunther's historic reign was finally over at WrestleMania 40. The man to dethrone him was Sami Zayn, who overcame the odds in a dramatic and emotional fight, ending one of the most dominant championship runs in modern WWE history. Gunther's legacy is twofold. First, he single-handedly elevated the Intercontinental Championship back to a prestige it hadn't seen in years. Second, he established himself as one of the most credible and dominant forces in all of wrestling. In an era often criticized for short title reigns, Gunther proved that a long, dominant championship run, when done right, is one of the most compelling stories wrestling can tell. Asuka. When you talk about modern undefeated streaks, one name stands above the rest: the Empress of Tomorrow, Asuka. She arrived in WWE and laid waste to an entire division for an astonishing 914 days. For over 2.5 years, no one could pin her, and no one could make her submit. Asuka was already a highly respected veteran in Japan before signing with WWE in 2015. When she debuted in NXT, it was obvious she was on another level. Her offense was a whirlwind of stiff kicks, lightning-fast strikes, and a dizzying array of submissions. She defeated her first opponents, Dana Brooke and Emma, with unnerving confidence. At NXT TakeOver, Dallas in 2016, she beat the beloved champion Bayley to win the NXT Women's Championship, and that's when her legendary reign truly began. For the next 510 days, Asuka held the NXT Women's Championship, the longest reign in the title's history. She defeated every challenger the brand had, including Nia Jax, Mickie James, and Ember Moon. At one point, she was so dominant that she demanded to face 3 challengers at once and won. During this time, she officially surpassed Goldberg's famous winning streak. She was so dominant that she never actually lost the NXT Women's Championship. In August 2017, after a successful title defense, she suffered a collarbone injury. Instead of waiting for her return, she relinquished the championship, leaving as the undefeated Queen of NXT before moving to the main roster. The streak continued on Monday Night Raw. She debuted and remained undefeated, winning the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match in 2018. This gave her a championship match at WrestleMania 34. Asuka chose to challenge SmackDown's Charlotte Flair, billing the match as Streak vs. Title. In a classic match at WrestleMania 34, Asuka's incredible 914-day run came to a shocking end. After a grueling battle, Charlotte Flair locked in her figure 8 leg lock, forcing Asuka to tap out for the first time in her WWE career. The crowd was stunned. It was a true WrestleMania moment and the end of an era. The legacy of Asuka's streak is monumental. It established her as one of the greatest women's wrestlers ever and set an impossibly high bar for dominance. Her 914-day undefeated run is a record that will likely never be broken. It not only made her an instant main eventer, but also elevated the entire NXT women's division. We're halfway through our list, and the streaks only get more legendary from here. If you're enjoying this look back at wrestling's most dominant athletes, do us a favor and hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe so you're here for the final half of our countdown. Now, who's next? Roman Reigns. In today's pro wrestling landscape, one reign has stood so far above the rest that it has redefined what it means to be a champion. It's a reign built on dominance, family, and the acknowledgement of a tribal chief. We are, of course, talking about the historic run of Roman Reigns. While this list is about winning streaks, Roman's modern dominance is unique. It's not just a traditional undefeated streak, but a period of being unpinned in singles matches for over 3.5 years, combined with one of the longest world title reigns in WWE history. The last time Roman Reigns was pinned in a one-on-one match was in December 2019 by King Corbin. The era of the tribal chief officially began at Payback in August 2020. Returning with a menacing new attitude and Paul Heyman by his side, Reigns won the Universal Championship. This kicked off a 1,316-day reign as champion, the longest in that title's history and the 4th longest world title reign in all of WWE history. Throughout this reign, Reigns systematically dismantled every top star in the company: John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Edge, Daniel Bryan, and Drew McIntyre, to name a few. He unified the WWE and Universal Championships at WrestleMania 38 and became the first person to defend the same world title in the main event of 3 straight WrestleManias. The Bloodline saga became one of the most compelling, long-term stories in modern wrestling. While the singles pinfall streak held strong, the Bloodline's walls began to crack in 2023. At Money in the Bank, in a Bloodline Civil War tag team match, his own cousin, Jey Uso, did the unthinkable and pinned the tribal chief. It was the first time Reigns had been pinned in any match in 1,294 days and sent a shockwave through the entire company. The end of the singles streak and the historic championship reign came at WrestleMania 40. In the main event of Night 2, after a chaotic match filled with interference, Cody Rhodes finally finished his story, pinning Roman Reigns to become the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. The loss ended his championship reign at an astounding 1,316 days. The legacy of Roman Reigns' dominance is undeniable. In a time when many thought long-term champions were a thing of the past, he proved that a patient, character-driven champion could be the most compelling thing in wrestling. His run will be remembered alongside those of Hulk Hogan and Bruno Sammartino as one of the truly defining reigns in the history of the sport. It wasn't just a streak, It was an era Hulk Hogan. Before there were streaks, as we know them today, there was Hulkamania. For 4 years in the 1980s, Hulk Hogan wasn't just the face of the WWF, he was a real-life superhero who seemed unstoppable. His reign as WWF champion was so dominant, it felt like he could never lose. This run wasn't just a winning streak, it was a cultural phenomenon. Hogan's iconic reign began on January 23, 1984, at Madison Square Garden, when he defeated the Iron Sheik for the WWF Championship. In that moment, Hulkamania was born. For the next 1,474 days, just over 4 years, Hogan held the championship, defending it against a gallery of monstrous villains like Rowdy Roddy Piper and King Kong Bundy. His overall stretch without being pinned or submitted lasted even longer, at 1,501 days. What made Hogan's streak so powerful was the formula. He was the ultimate good guy who told kids to train, say their prayers, and eat their vitamins. He'd face a huge threat, take a beating, and just when it looked like all hope was lost, he would Hulk up. Feeding on the crowd's energy, he'd hit his signature big boot and leg drop for the win. It was a simple story, but it was told perfectly and captivated millions. The peak of this era was WrestleMania 3. In front of a record crowd, Hogan faced his biggest challenge yet, the undefeated Andre the Giant. In arguably the most iconic moment in wrestling history, Hogan did the impossible, slamming the 500-pound giant and hitting the leg drop to retain his title. So how did this 4-year reign of heroism end? It took a wild plot involving an evil twin referee. On February 5, 1988, Hogan defended his title against Andre in a rematch. After Hogan hit the leg drop, referee Earl Hebner, who had been paid off by the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, made a fast 3 count even though Hogan's shoulder was clearly off the mat. Andre was declared the new champion, ending Hogan's reign at 1,474 days. The legacy of Hulkamania and Hogan's first championship reign is, simply put, the foundation of modern sports entertainment. His popularity and unbeatable aura launched the WWF from a regional promotion into a global powerhouse. While other streaks may have more wins, none had the cultural impact of Hogan's run in the 1980s. Goldberg. In 1997, during the Monday Night War, WCW unleashed a force of nature the wrestling world had never seen. A former NFL player with explosive intensity, Bill Goldberg debuted and started tearing through the roster. He wasn't just winning, he was annihilating opponents in minutes. This was the birth of The Streak. Goldberg debuted on September 22, 1997, on WCW Monday Nitro and defeated Hugh Morris. What followed was a meteoric rise fueled by a growing, officially recognized undefeated streak. His matches were short, brutal, and electric. The sequence was always the same: a thunderous spear, a devastating jackhammer, and a 1-2-3. The Goldberg chant grew louder with each victory. The streak quickly became the hottest story in wrestling. In April 1998, he won the United States Championship. The defining moment of his rise came on July 6, 1998, in Atlanta. In front of over 40,000 fans, Goldberg first beat Scott Hall, and then later that night, defeated Hollywood Hulk Hogan to become the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. It was a massive moment broadcast live on Nitro. WCW officially billed the streak as 173-0. While the actual number is debated, with many sources saying it was closer to 150, the kayfabe number was what mattered. It created an unmatched aura of invincibility. He successfully defended his title against stars like Diamond Dallas Page in a match Goldberg himself calls his favorite. The streak came to a controversial end at Starrcade 1998. Goldberg defended his title against Kevin Nash. In a shocking finish, Nash's NWO stablemate Scott Hall, disguised as a security guard, tasered Goldberg. Nash then hit the jackknife powerbomb and pinned Goldberg, ending the streak at an official 173 wins. The decision is still debated by fans today, with many feeling it was a premature end to the run of the company's biggest homegrown star. The legacy of Goldberg's streak is one of pure, unadulterated dominance. It made him one of the biggest stars of the Monday Night War, creating a superstar from scratch in record time. The image of him being escorted by security through roaring arenas and his explosive style created a character that felt more real than anything else at the time. The Undertaker. Some streaks are about the number of wins. Others are about a championship reign. But one streak is different. It's a legend in itself, a myth that became the centerpiece of WWE's biggest show for over 2 decades. It is simply The Streak, The Undertaker's unprecedented 21 consecutive victories at WrestleMania. The streak began humbly at WrestleMania 7 in 1991, where a young Undertaker defeated Superfly Jimmy Snuka. For the first decade, it wasn't an official storyline. It was just a fact. The Undertaker kept winning at WrestleMania. He beat Jake, the Snake Roberts, Giant Gonzalez, and Diesel. It wasn't until around WrestleMania X7 that WWE began to actively acknowledge that The Undertaker was building a special legacy. From then on, the streak transformed. It was no longer just a series of wins, it became a major attraction. Beating The Undertaker at WrestleMania was described as a greater honor than winning a world championship. The list of legends who tried and failed to break the streak is a Hall of Fame roster. Ric Flair, Randy Orton, Batista, and Edge. But the legend of the streak peaked in 4 matches that are considered among the greatest in WrestleMania history. He had 2 back-to-back classics with Shawn Michaels, followed by 2 brutal wars with Triple H. After defeating CM Punk at WrestleMania 29, the record stood at a seemingly unbeatable 21-0. Then came WrestleMania 30 on April 6, 2014. The Undertaker's opponent was the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. After a third F5, Lesnar pinned The Undertaker. The Superdome fell into a deafening, stunned silence. The 21-1 that flashed on the screen is one of the most shocking images in WWE history. The end of the streak was a moment no one saw coming and remains one of the most controversial booking decisions ever. The legacy of the streak is unparalleled. For over 20 years, it was a cornerstone of WrestleMania. It cemented The Undertaker's status as arguably the greatest character in WWE history. Even after it was broken, he continued to wrestle at WrestleMania, ending his career with a staggering record of 25 wins and only 2 losses. But it's those first 21 victories, that perfect, mythical run, that will forever be remembered as the greatest streak in professional wrestling history. From the televised dominance of Tatanka to the record-shattering reigns of Gunther and Roman Reigns, winning streaks have been a core part of wrestling for generations. They've launched careers, defined eras, and given us unforgettable moments of shock and awe. Whether it was Goldberg's explosive rise, Asuka's 2.5-year reign of terror, or the era-defining runs of Hulk Hogan and The Undertaker, these periods of invincibility created some of the most enduring legends in the sport. These streaks are more than just numbers. They're the stories we remember and proof that in wrestling, a single loss can be just as powerful as 100 wins. What did you think of our list? Did we miss any of your favorite winning streaks? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.